In the village of Castle Hedingham, Hedingham Castle is uniquely one of Europe's best preserved medieval keeps. It also has a massive 28-foot Norman arch and one of the biggest, but more on this structure later. Gifted by William the Conqueror to Aubrey de Vere I in 1086, the manor of Hedingham was testament to the de Vere family's power in England and during the early medieval period. Aubrey de Vere I was a warrior who fought alongside William the Conqueror and was rewarded with vast estates in Middlesex and Essex for his loyalty. The castle and its keep were built in the 1130s and 1140s by his descendants Aubrey II and Aubrey III, using the Archbishop of Canterbury as the architect. In 1133, Aubrey II was created Master Chamberlain of England by Henry I. The second Aubrey de Vere was an influential baron who supported Empress Matilda's bid for the English throne after the death of Henry I. His allegiance led to his violent death in 1141, when the citizens of London rose up in revolt against Matilda, and she was forced to flee the city. His son Aubrey III finished the castle, and Matilda rewarded him for continuing his father's loyalty to her cause by naming him the first Earl of Oxford. By that time, he had been Count of Guines in the present-day Norman France for several years by right of his wife's inheritance. Matilda, wife of King Stephen, died at Castle Hedingham on May 3, 1152. The castle was besieged twice in 1216 and 1217 during the dispute between King John, rebel barons and a French prince. In both cases, the sieges were short and successful for those besieging the castle. The de Vere family long held the castle except for a hiatus during the War of the Roses. The castle was taken from the de Veres upon the execution of John de Vere, the 12th Earl of Oxford, for treason against Edward IV in 1462. Edward then awarded Hedingham to his brother Richard, Duke of Gloucester, later King Richard III, who bestowed it upon Henry Barley, Sheriff of Essex and Hertfordshire. During the War of the Roses, John de Vere, the 13th Earl of Oxford, supported the Lancastrian cause and helped lead Henry VI's armies at the Battle of Barnet in 1471. Not surprisingly, Edward IV seized his estates. De Vere helped Henry VII defeat Edward's successor Richard III, and the grateful king restored his lands and titles. Henry invited de Vere to stand as godfather to his eldest son, Prince Arthur. The 15th Earl attended Henry VIII at the Field of Cloth of Gold and held the crown during the coronation of Anne Boleyn as Henry's second queen. The 16th Earl led Elizabeth I to a coronation, and his countess served as Elizabeth's maid of honour. The 17th Earl de Vere was one of Elizabeth's great favourites and a noted poet. Repeated theories have surfaced that the Earl actually wrote the plays and poetry attributed to William Shakespeare, and this theory was dramatised in the 2011 film Anonymous. Today, the castle keep has 5 floors, including the Great Hall with a grand fireplace and a central arch extending 2 stories. The top floor may have been added around the 15th century, replacing an impressive pyramid-shaped roof. However, this is a recent theory, and many older sources have compared plans of Hedingham Castle and Rochester Castle, which began around 1126, and that has 4 floors and 4 turrets. Despite the passage of time and the ambitious building plans of Henry VII, which led to the removal of 2 of its 4 turrets, the castle still stands tall at 70 feet or 21 metres. Its walls vary between 12 and 13 feet or around 3.4 metres in thickness and are faced with ashlar stone from a quarry in Barnack, Northamptonshire. Initially it had an inner and outer bailey, the latter extended into where the village now stands, and the inner bailey no longer exists, although a ditch dug to fortify the castle can still be seen to the present day. The keep stood inside a large enclosure protected by a stone curtain wall, but only fragments of the wall remain to the present day. Its hall, drawbridge and other structures were removed due to ambitious building plans in the Tudor period, and except for a red brick bridge that connects the inner bailey to the outer bailey, these additions were later demolished. There was originally a forebuilding standing in front of the entrance with stairs leading to a first floor entrance. The forebuilding is mainly ruined, but the Norman entrance door is still used with its portcullis groove. The direct lineage died in 1703 when the 20th Earl passed without a son. His daughter married the Duke of St Albans, the illegitimate son of Charles II and Nell Gwyn. But in 1713, Sir William Ashurst, Lord Mayor of London, bought Hedingham, and the de Vere connection was lost for the moment. Ashurst, in fact, built a grand new country house there of red brick, which still stands beside the medieval castle. After he died in 1720, the estate passed to his great-granddaughter Margaret Elizabeth Lindsay, the wife of Louis Magendie. The Magendie family owned Hedingham Castle for 250 years, until Musette Magendie left it to her cousin Thomas Lindsay, who is, incidentally, a descendant from the de Veres from maternal and paternal lines. His son Jason Lindsay and his wife Demetra live with their children at Hedingham Castle. One can easily imagine that with such a history, many tales of hauntings and some inexplicable events have been reported there, and indeed here are some. The woods surrounding the castle are allegedly haunted by witches, and it is claimed that weird rituals have been performed there. But there is a legendary 18th century haunting of a beautiful woman named Polly Miles, who some claim was a witch. She apparently disappeared during a winter celebration in the castle grounds and wasn't seen again until her red-cloaked body was found the following spring and face down in a stream. It was claimed she had a mysterious lover and that he may have murdered her, but of course no culprit was ever found. Today her shade haunts the castle walls. She was not buried in the local parish churchyard, but by a crossroad. It is said that flowers appear at the crossroads where her supposed grave was every Halloween and Christmas Eve. But of course not one scintilla of truth, as the estate is privately owned, and these stories are likely apocryphal and probably passed down by villagers with their children when they misbehave. And lastly, there apparently is a secret tunnel connecting as far as Colchester Castle, but of course no evidence has ever been found. Although just outside the castle, a witness driving through the village during daylight in 2015 claimed to have spotted 3 men dressed in medieval armour standing outside a row of cottages. The witness initially thought the knights were reenactors, although the figures and the surrounding environment were blurry, as if seen through frosted glass. No reenactment had been advertised for the day of the encounter. There is no doubt that the castle and grounds are haunted. Within the keep, visitors have felt cold spots and the feeling of being uncomfortable. But until a complete examination of the castle and grounds has been made by investigators, it's likely to be more speculation than fact. But are there any active de Vere hauntings? Most of the de Vere family were interred within the family mausoleum at Colne Priory in Essex. The priory was the principal burial place of the Earls of Oxford, with all but a few buried there until 1703. In 1935, the 3 surviving effigies were removed from the mausoleum and re-erected by the Probert family at the then recently restored St Stephen's Chapel at Mount Bures in Suffolk. In 2022, I visited the chapel with a purpose to film a short documentary. After taking photographs, I set up my camcorder by the altar to film the interior during regular daylight hours. At that time, I was the only person in the building. On later review, I discovered that I had accidentally captured some apparitions on camera, and you can see the actual clip here. While there, I shot stills and some video to convey the atmosphere, which is actually a place well sited away from any public highway, and sits in splendid isolation apart from a cottage some distance away next door. I certainly wasn't planning on shooting a light anomaly which appeared on my static video camera as it sat on a frame and pointing towards a doorway which is indicated by an arrow towards the entrance and stairs which leads to an upper gallery. I think you'll be quite amazed. I can't find a rational explanation here because the light anomalies come into view from right to left and left to right, and certainly no car or indeed humans are heard or observed. But of course the final verdict can only come from your own personal view and conviction as to whether or not you feel this capture is indeed paranormal. Were these the spiritual presences of the de Veres? Unfortunately, we will never know, but the footage remains as intriguing as when it was first shot. Well, that's it for now, and until the next time. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if not already a subscriber, if you could click the subscribe button, and don't forget to click the bell icon for any updates of any news or new releases. Thank you.